Greetings, everybody. Welcome to our July 13th TED Talks Discussion Club. My name is Mark Hanitka. I'm a full-time faculty here at UAGC, and this is a collaboration, a co-creation of Clifford Blizzard and myself. And we're so happy to have you. We both work with the honors program, so we really heavily market this to the honors students, but we are opening it up, and it is essentially open to the entire university. And we're going to do more to get more marketing out there in the coming weeks and months, because we think that it's been a pretty successful club so far. So we're so happy to see a lot of familiar faces, some new faces. The way this is going to work is we are going to watch two, possibly three if we have time, TED Talks on the topic of sustainability this month. We do change the topic each month, and we'll watch two or more videos, and then we'll have about 15 minutes just to discuss what we thought about it. And yeah, hopefully we have some good discussions. So this first video, I'm going to provide the YouTube link. It is called How to Find Joy in Climate Action by Ayana Elizabeth Johnson. And it's all of these are relatively recent. I believe they're all less than a year old, and some of them are only a few months or less old. So here is the first video, and I'm also going to share my screen and start streaming it. But yes, feel free to watch on your own machine. You might have better quality than if you try to watch from the stream, because if I have any internet issues or you have any internet issues, it's going to affect the, let's see, it's going to affect your quality. So
also, and I'm
You're breaking up a little bit, Clifford.
I have poor internet because I do. Your camera during the streaming of the video. I just said to do, which is if you turn off your camera, that will help with streaming as well.
Okay, I will turn my camera off. All right, if you want to watch on your own machine or follow along on my stream, feel free, let us know in the chat when you're back. Hope you enjoy the first video. It's about a little over 10 minutes long.
People often ask me what they can do to help address the climate crisis. But what they usually mean is what's one quick.
And we're back, or at least hopefully. If you're not back yet, you probably will be shortly. Wow, what an inspiring presentation. And I don't know, my first thought or discussion question is what did you all think of it, and maybe what are you working on in your own life in terms of contributing to a more sustainable climate, a more sustainable environment? Love to hear.
I'd be happy to get us started. Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Morley. I have completed all 6 of my honors courses, but I'm really working on my PLAs to try to get my 15 PLAs done. I was really struck by her Venn diagram and how easy it can kind of be to find that intersectionality of what work needs done, what do I like doing, and those 2 things was very powerful. When I took Dr. Hinitka's class, this is my 3rd year now having a vegetable garden. We have baby bunnies that have taken up residence in there too, but it feels I have a rain barrel. So like a lot of that stuff that I learned felt at first like just tiny incremental things, but accidentally it kind of fits within that Venn diagram. I'm really enjoying it. I feel like it's making a positive difference, and it's meeting just a teeny bit of the work that needs to be done. So thanks.
Thank you for sharing, Linda. Glad to hear. And yeah, sometimes too, when we start to take little actions, they can, build, and you gain momentum, and you're like, wow, okay, this was not that hard. This is easier now. This was fun. And then you start to take on new challenges. And I think that, in many aspects of our life, we can follow that model of starting with something that sounds appealing to us, and then, maybe it can snowball into more action.
Mark, from a corporate side, this is my past career, but we did a lot of recycling in the PepsiCo business, and we you know, whether that was aluminum cans or plastics. You know, I was part of a lot of organizations like DuPage Clean and Beautiful in Aurora, Illinois, and you know, just making sure that there's a good climate. We're doing everything we can as responsible, you know, citizens to make a positive difference. So that's kind of what comes to me. I also, Linda, love the diagram, you know, and the fact that it focuses us and it stimulates. And like you said, Mark, it's inspiring to get you thinking about your purpose and what you can do or what you're currently doing. So very nice.
Thank you, Bill.
This is Barbie. I was somewhat surprised at the term implementation being identified as sexy. My role at Bank of America is I am an implementation manager. So of course I started to smile when I heard that. But I am a member of the My Environment team within the bank, and we are responsible for identifying volunteer opportunities to assist with improving the environment. We often go to various gardens and help clean them up and plant trees. And we have annually what is called Corporate Green Day Challenge, where we partner with several other corporations it's one particular day, it's around Earth Day, where we go out into the environment and select various projects. So this year we had probably about 50 volunteers, and we went to a neighborhood local garden and we cleaned, picked up trash. And then of course we toured the garden, which was very meaningful. There was one garden titled after mothers who have passed during childbirth. And of course I had a cousin to pass during childbirth. So that was very meaningful to me and just wanted me to identify opportunities to be able to go back to that particular location month after month, just to help with beautifying, or I guess you can say making the environment better. But again, I look for ways and opportunities to see how I can do more as it relates to recycling, planting trees, or just cleaning up the neighborhood.
Thank you for sharing, Barbie. Yeah, and that's a great point, as well as a good way to start to get involved with environmental sustainability issues, climate sustainability, is to look in your own community what groups or organizations, clubs might already be in existence. And that can be a great way to do something social, maybe do something outside, and you know, that aligns with your interests, and get to know some people who maybe share similar interests, and you can work together, learn from each other, and have a bigger impact. So thank you for sharing, Barbie.
Thank you.
Got some great comments in the chat as well. A lot of love for that Venn diagram. I've also seen a similar diagram used for trying to figure out what you want to do for your career. And it's like, what are you passionate and interested about? What are you good at? And what is there a demand for? And what's the intersection of that? And that's what you should, you know, do for your career, ideally. Oftentimes, you know, we go in the direction where we kind of where life takes us, but you know, it's always good to have that you know, have that planning and have that goal setting, and that you know, vision of what you want, whether it's your career, other aspects of your life, or making a positive impact. Does anybody else want to share? Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, Mark here. I think one thing too, from a perspective of businesses, and I know she talked about, you know, corporations and kind of pulling away from the individual impacts that we have. But I think from like a business and marketing perspective, having that demand for products that are going to be green products, for example, you know, really has a huge impact on it too, because there's a lot that can be done on like a policy level or through government intervention. But you know, what really drives free market is going to be the demand of consumers. And so I think that that's a huge impact to it. So the more that we demand those types of products, I think that that's really going to have a huge impact on how businesses conduct themselves and how they produce those products and how they package those products and how they distribute those products.
Yes, thank you for sharing, Mark. I agree 100% because that is that, whether we like it or not, that is the system that we are in. I mean, you know, I think there are many benefits to capitalism and the free market, and there are also some challenges associated with it in our current implementation of that system. But certainly that's what we are working with. And so the more that we can raise people's awareness of, hey, you know, maybe these products are more sustainable than others. If you want to, you know, do a reusable water bottle, or, you know, like I've got a stainless steel tumbler, you know, and even at the end of its life, I mean, it has a plastic lid, but, you know, the stainless steel can be recycled very easily. You know, different, you know, demand for products with more sustainable packaging. That's a big thing. The amount of packaging waste that we have, most of it plastic. And I'm still guilty of this. I'm, you know, I would say for almost 20 years, I've been trying to lead a more green lifestyle, but it's still hard because we are constrained by what is available. But I think that as we see consumers' preferences and demands changing, we see companies start to respond with more, like you said, more sustainable products, more sustainable packaging, less packaging, things that are more reusable or very easily recyclable. So yeah, thank you for sharing, Mark. Does anybody have any other comments on this first video before we move on to the second video?
Mark, I just have one more comment on energy. You know, I know when I was in my prior career, you know, when we would sell business to business, you know, for vending business, for example, we had a lot of large clients that demanded energy efficient machines. You know, they wanted the facts and the detail and upgrades and so forth. So, you know, and that's a while back, but that whole trend is there, you know, for conservation and sustainability and saving on energy too. So it goes pretty deep.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bill. And I think too, as you know, as we see gas prices increasing, we see consumers start to get more concerned with the fuel efficiency of their vehicle, maybe consider switching to a hybrid or electric vehicle. And as we see other energy prices increasing, which is predicted to happen over time as demand goes up and supply maybe cannot keep up with demand, you know, we're going to see people more price sensitive to energy costs, and they're going to want more efficient. They're going to want LED lighting because it's going to cost less, you know, whether it's your home or your business, you know, more insulation for your buildings. You know, I think that we're going to see impacts from, you know, the market and supply and demand. So, you know, in many different areas. So thanks for sharing, Bill. Oh, okay. Rochelle commented about changes from plastic to glass, glass to reusable, aluminum containers for beverages, CPG, consumer packaged goods. Oh, work in the natural organic portion of the industry. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's really interesting. And that's something that, you know, even, you know, we can recycle plastics in many areas, but even plastic recycling is not as ideal or sustainable in the long term as recycling glass, aluminum, steel, and paper products. Plastic has a certain, it degrades each time that you melt it down and reuse it, and it tends to get contaminated. So when you recycle plastic, it tends to get recycled into a lower quality of plastic than what it started as. So it's a little less sustainable in the long term, but better than landfilling for sure. Davina, I saw you unmute. Did you have a comment?
I was just going to state of just how like proud I am of just change in general. I would say that I'm not like super old, like, or like experienced as like I've only worked for since I've been since I was 16, and I'm like 23 now. But as I've been able to see how the attitude towards the environment has changed drastically from people just only doing, their share of like recycling plastic or tin cans to their sorry, my baby's in the background, but to the push for recycle bins pushed in every neighborhood. And now there's the push for like electric cars, hybrid cars, things like that, that are energy efficient. And it's something that takes time, and it's a progress that is certainly being made, especially since the fact that a lot of things that are energy efficient is a bit more expensive, but in the long run, it would, of course, be more like save the person that is buying it money because of it just being so efficient, right? I just think the education part of it definitely is, still working with getting people to like understand, or not even just understand, because I feel like people, we've talked about energy change and energy being more energy efficient for like so long, but it's the way that it's being talked about now that people are listening, should I say. It's kind of like it's like people are realizing what's going on around them, and it's causing them to just like stop and just like, oh, what's going on? I need to know, what can I do to change? So definitely want to say it like that.
Awesome. Thank you, Davina. Yeah, I've also noticed an increasing change in the culture, in the last 5 to 10 years, versus maybe the prior decade to that. So that is encouraging, because these challenges that we face are very serious. They're going to have wide-ranging impacts, and even if we do our best efforts from here on out, we're still going to face some negative impacts. But what we do now and in the next 10 years is going to have a major impact on what life is like, in 50 or 100 years, for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. So yeah, I'm hopeful that we're going to move in the right direction, but it's going to take a lot of effort from everybody, citizens, corporations, governments, and all finding the best solutions. Clifford, did you have a comment?
Yes, I was just going to kind of, as we move toward the next, and again, forgive me, my video, if I add video, you won't be able to understand me. As we move to this transition away from this video, I just want to share the thought that one positive that's emerged out of the carbon footprint concept is that it's basically a starter level. I think it's a wonderful doorway for those that have not taken steps yet to live more sustainably, to become aware of the potential for doing that. In particular, because it's measurable, you can see, wow, I can make changes, and the changes can change the numbers, and my impact is changing as a result. So I think it's a wonderful access point. That question then becomes, okay, we've made those changes, where do we go from here? And that's really where things get exciting, where this TED Talk is pointing us is, well, okay, now that we've done that, how can we take this to the next level? And what is the invitation that we have to do that? So anyway.
Thank you, Clifford. And yeah, I see Nate and Nate posted in the chat the shift in the auto industry to electric vehicles, and that seems to be accelerating. And I'm also very excited about that. I think that we need to make that shift in a major way in the coming years and decades. And I think we will, because I think that as the technology becomes less expensive, more widely available, economies of scale, that it's just more efficient. Even if and I've seen different analyses that even if you're generating the electricity using fossil fuels, which is still the case in many areas, if you have coal-fired power plants, it's still producing less pollution per mile driven to use an electric vehicle, because electric vehicles are so efficient at using that energy. Whereas an individual gas or diesel combustion engine is inherently so inefficient. That's why it heats up and you need a coolant system, and all that heat is wasted energy. And you can look up the engineering behind it, but just yeah, EVs are so much more efficient. So yeah, I hope to see that. So our next video is we're getting to a more specific topic. This is the future of the food ecosystem and the power of your plate. And I'm gonna apologize in advance. The presenter is Ndidi Okonkwo Nwuneli. She'll pronounce it in the video. I watched it once or twice, but it's not sounds that I'm familiar with. But there is the link, and I'm going to pause the recording and start streaming. Wow, I really love that presentation. That was my third watch through, and I was still inspired by that one. So would love to hear your thoughts, and if you have any experience or have participated in any types of sustainable or local food projects or businesses. Yeah, love to hear what you have to say.
I would just like to first start by saying that that is just the TED Talk was just so amazing and touched on every important detail pertaining to just like sustainability and as well of how the details of the intensity of how they are, you know, in harmony with the land. And it's just kind of just a bit funny to me when she mentioned that the stealing of the info from Africa because of just how so many things have come from Africa. But what as well just brought to my mind was when she spoke of the Rockefeller Foundation funding so many different type of projects, and that is something that when she spoke about it, it just made me think about what I like to call Mr. John D. Rockefeller being like the godfather kind of like corporate America in a way, as like starting like with the back in the day with the oil and everything. And my thing is that with the Rockefeller Foundation being such a large family and a corporation that is funding so many different projects, they are as well funding the projects that kind of contradict sustainability. So I just feel that of course, encouraging of the smaller sectors, the small and middle-sized enterprises that are pushing sustainability, that we should push them as well to, try to get the change push from like the corporations or the companies that are funding these type of projects, like, try to encourage them to not fund the other type of projects that are hindering the progress that we're making, if that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah. I think you shared so many wonderful points, and I'm glad you found the video to be inspiring and full of some great information and points. So thank you so much for sharing, Davina. Who else? We have some good comments in the chat as well. Clifford shared a link to Atlanta's creating the nation's largest free food forest. That's really cool. It's always it's sad to see when there are different types of fruit trees that maybe are not being fully utilized in different areas, especially when there's people that need food. And it's also kind of sad that we have all these, there's a lot of public lands in cities, in neighborhoods. We certainly have no shortage of grass, but some of that land could be converted to produce food and not really do much input on it, but just substitute non-food producing trees and plants with ones that do produce food, and then whoever wants it can harvest it if they want. So I think some areas are moving towards that. Did anybody else want to share? Shamika, I saw you came on camera. Did you have something you wanted to share?
Well, mine wasn't like a large scale project, but of course, every project starts off small. So this year I actually planted a garden. The deer and the groundhogs and rabbits were kind of against me, but that's a small step, towards a bigger issue. So that is one thing that I, took and did this year. So definitely plan to do it, going forward, because I had a nice little variety, and it definitely saves money, especially when you get your garden to a point where you can actually harvest it and get things from it. That's stuff that I'm not having to drive to the store to get, and it's just right out in my yard. So that's my small step towards, you know, a bigger issue.
Wonderful, Shamika. Thanks for sharing. What inspired you to start a garden?
Well, I've always, you know, done like small things. You know, I might have like 1 or 2 plants, but this year, you know, I just went ahead and did it. My grandparents, you know, for as long as I can remember, have always had, you know, a larger garden in their yard, you know, and they did it every single year. Of course, you know, my grandma's 83 now, so, you know, the garden isn't as big. But I mean, if she could still get out and go plant her cucumbers and tomatoes, you know, I should be able to go out and, you know, plant my whatever. And yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, my grandparents also had a garden through all my childhood that I remember. And then my parents at our first house that we, you know, where I was born and grew up for a while, we had a garden, but then when we moved, there wasn't really a good place for it. And we had a lot of deer. So it was challenging. If you're in an area with deer, you definitely have to like keep those deer out. In our backyard, we don't have deer, but I think our Brussels sprouts and cabbages just got eaten, I think, by rabbits. So we need to put up a little fence around it. We have like a little fence that we can put up and take down. But yeah, that was kind of a bummer, but thanks for sharing. Yeah, I hope more people are inspired to try gardening. And if at first you don't succeed, it's just like any other sort of skill or hobby. You know, it's a learning process, and it might be challenging at first, but do a diversity of things, do what you like, what you enjoy. Herbs tend to be really relatively easy, and they're expensive at the store. So, you know, whatever herbs you like to use, start with those. And then salad mix is not too hard either. But, you know, just try different things, see what works, see what you like, and plant some food.
Hey, Marcus, Linda, I wanted to add something to what Nate talked about for the meat industry. So as a result of going through a lot of my core studies here at UAGC, I've actually given up meat. I'm a pescatarian now. And because of the environmental impact, I think it was in your class in Science 207 where we did like, what's your water footprint, what's your footprints? And it was surprising how negative the meat industry is from the additional pesticides they use, because the same crop is grown year over year over year and it gets resistant to insects, and then the runoff that creates into the water system, and then like Nate says, the methane that is produced by that, and just the water involved in cleaning and transporting and butchering the meat. So it was very difficult at first, but it's like I have a lot better mental acuity. I don't have stomach issues and whatnot, and some of the plant-based Yay Impossible Burger, some of that stuff is really tasty, and I don't miss it. So it was a great decision on my part. And again, small micro things we can do that will eventually have a macro impact.
Yeah, I'm just going to chime in to say, Linda, that your words resonate so well with me, because there was just in the news a shocking study that looked at blood samples of people and found that something like 80% of the people tested had measurable amounts of glyphosate. And glyphosate is the main ingredient in Roundup, a product by Monsanto. And when Roundup was first put out on the market, Monsanto asserted firmly that it was completely harmless, that it breaks down quickly in the soil, that it's great. I even attended trainings with environmental folks in Ithaca, New York, which is about as green as you can get, where we were told, oh, if you need to get rid of invasive plants, just cut them and coat them with Roundup. That's how duped we were into thinking that it was harmless. And now we're finding, no, in fact, it's a very dangerous chemical. It's associated with cancer, and it's everywhere. And Roundup is still being used. It's a major product in genetically engineered crops that are Roundup ready. I think that's what you were talking about there. They're specifically grown so that they can have Roundup dumped on them and can survive. And that produces those super weeds you're talking about, because some of the weeds inevitably survive. So what does a farmer do? The farmer either goes out and picks every weed by hand, or dump more glyphosate on and dump more and more. And it's a vicious cycle. So thank you for bringing our attention to that.
Yes, thank you, Linda and Clifford. And yeah, and that's they're starting to switch away from Roundup Ready. I think they've created genetically modified crops that can take 2,4-D herbicide, which is like half of the component in Agent Orange that they used during the Vietnam War to defoliate the jungle. So they're switching to higher potency herbicides because of the herbicide resistance of weeds now, because of our overuse of Roundup. But yeah, thank you for sharing, Clifford. Do we have any more thoughts? I do have, I don't think we're going to get to the last video. I will share the link to it before we go. And I also had a call for help if anybody is interested. I think some of you have already contributed to this project we're doing in the Academic Engagement Center, where we primarily work with the general education, your core classes in your first 2 years. And we're looking for students who have had some of these courses. I'll post it in the chat. We need students to do short little videos, and we have questions. And we're really looking for students who would be willing to talk about English, some of the English courses, Gen 104, and then some of kind of our midpoint courses, Philosophy 103, 208, Com 200, History 206, and SSC 101. So if you have had any of those courses recently and you would like to contribute, and if you're in the honors program, you can count your time that you work on this little video project. You don't have to rehearse it. You can just kind of go off the fly. You can do it all in one take if you want. We're gonna edit it together at the end. But if you're interested in participating, you can count it towards your honors PLA hours. But send me an email if you are interested and you have not already contributed. But back to the discussion. Would love to hear other people's thoughts.
Really quick, I do just love the discussions that we have, and as well just how everything kind of pulls all together. Just like us bringing up the fact of how pesticides are just so dangerous, and how different things, little changes of like just changing your diet can just make a huge difference, and even influencing others to do the same. I mean, the conversations are endless, but it's just the way that they're being held. It's on a respectful level. It's just great to see.
Thank you so much.
I just want to add one more thing. I know we talked about the garden. One thing I also started doing, I started purchasing my meats from a local farmer. So that way, it's more controlled as to the products that are used, around those animals and stuff like that. So that's another thing that I did start doing, which also helps.
Awesome, Shamika. Thank you for sharing. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I'll add one thing. I can resonate with Linda's perspective on making changes after taking that science course and determining what my carbon footprint was, water footprint, and so on and so forth. And for me, I already didn't eat meat and I was very, very picky. So I was kind of sort of a pescatarian, but that's because I'm picky, not because I don't enjoy other foods. But one thing I have increased on is what I recycle, and I'm more aware of that. So I think, again, that course really was an eye-opener in terms of the small things that I can do as an individual to contribute to the overall sustainability.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Stephanie. Yeah, I think, we can each, figure out what we can do and work on that. And one thing also that, and Linda pointed out, the course that I teach a lot of and Clifford teaches a lot of every year is Science 207, where we do go through, and I think, many of you have referenced it. And if you haven't had Science 207, you have something to look forward to. And if you have had it, you've hopefully had a good experience and a challenging experience, but one that was rewarding. But in that class, we do examine our own environmental footprint and how we can impact it. And, I think that hopefully what students come away from that is that, we can each make a difference, and then we can learn and we can grow in our knowledge. We can be an example to others, and we can share that information with our family, our immediate family, our household, our neighbors, our community, at our work. So I encourage you all to go forth from this and from your knowledge and experience, and hopefully go out and make an impact. And we'd love to hear about it in the future. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We do have another meeting immediately after this that we need to get to, so we are going to have to wrap it up right now. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Please do email me. You have the email from the invite if you are interested in participating in that video project. And we look forward to seeing you at the next event, which is actually going to be with Bill Davis, who is here, and our very own Dr. Chris Foster. And they're going to be talking about some management principles and how they can apply to your own life to promote success in your personal and professional pursuits. So that's coming up July 21st. And that was also in the invite email. Thank you, everybody.
And if you're in honors, a reminder to you that if you're in the honors program and need to receive credit for your hours toward your PLA credit, be sure to visit the honors learning community for the form that you need to fill out in Qualtrics to do that. So that we encourage you to do that right away after this talk. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you next month for immigration. Will be our topic next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.